Hey everyone, it's Ben Hardy here, and in today's going to be reviewing a pre-owned Land Cruiser 1958 edition to see if this new Land Cruiser is holding its value, and well, I think this will be a good show of future resale value for the Toyota brand. Before we get into this video, a huge shout out and thank you to the Southtown Mitsubishi for giving me some time with this Land Cruiser. They sell the new Mitsubishis, but they also have a ton of really cool pre-owned cars. They're part of the Axios group, so just check out their inventory. They've got a lot of stuff. Link to it in the description down below. Link to my car buying guide as well. Let's get into it. So powering the new Land Cruiser is a turbo 2.4 liter 4-cylinder paired to a hybrid and an 8-speed automatic transmission. Fuel economy is over 20 miles per gallon combined, 22 around town, 25 on the highway to be exact. Power output's 326 horsepower and then 465 pound-feet of torque. Now, Toyota has had some problems with their new powertrains, and so it'll be interesting to see how that kind of plays into resale value with these new cars. Now, before we move forward with this review, I do want to mention if you want to see more videos just like this, then I recommend you subscribe because I post content every single day. So just a quick overview on this. This is the 1958 package, and since I've reviewed quite a few Land Cruisers, I can actually kind of differentiate between the packages a little bit better. So the hood design on all of them is the same. The 1958 in the first edition gets circular, whereas the Land Cruiser spec gets like the rectangular headlights. They all have the Heritage Toyota logo. Now I noticed that on the 1958, this is unpainted, whereas on the higher packages, it's painted. You still get fog lights though, but this definitely has a more plasticky appearance because of the unpainted section there. And then something else that I learned is actually the width. The 1958 is actually a little bit narrower compared to the Land Cruiser and the first edition. So not only does it have narrower tires, right, it actually has a slightly narrower track as well, which I think is very interesting. You can see the giant air dam there as well. But yeah, you still get chunky fender flares. You still get these squared off mirror caps as well. And it still has that cool boxy design that I think a lot of people are really going to like with this generation of Land Cruiser. Now, funny enough, this one actually has a new key. You can see it says Venza on the back. My assumption is the original key was lost, and so we had to have a spare put to this, and the spare is a Venza key, which, I mean, it works, but it's funny. Anywho, so press this button right here and this will open up the rear glass. So this is always a nice feature to have. On the 4Runner, the glass slides down, but this is manual for the operation. And then the hatch is also manual with the 1958. You do lose a little bit of space here on the bottom with the Land Cruiser. So there's one downside with the battery pack. You can see a little charging port there. And you've got cup holders and stuff in the back because overseas this has a third row. And yeah, pretty easy with that whole setup. Love the taillight design. And then this is all unpainted. I've noticed that in all the Land Cruisers, which I'm sure that has to do with off-roading, but I wish that they would do something other than plastic because that stuff is going to break very easily off-road. But anyways, that's the rear. Now this of course leads us inside. The 1950 has a more basic interior, which I actually really like. And same thing with these seats here. I really enjoy the cloth seats. They just have a nice feel to them. And room back here is good. Got our own climate zone here in the back as well. And then headroom's going to be good too because of the boxy design. And then this leads us up front. Same thing with the materials. Again, more basic, but it does have blind spot monitoring, which is nice. See all the window controls and the mirrors actually power fold in. Another nice feature. Payload on this version is 1,100 pounds, so a little bit good. Anyways, here's the front seat with all the cloth trim. I'm wondering how well this is going to hold up over time. It looks like it's pretty durable stuff. And then you can see we've got trailer brake controls and all of that. You got the steering wheel, it's manually adjustable, and getting in's easy. You just kind of step up. It's pretty nice. Full digital gauge cluster even with this. Well, I mean, those are still kind of digital elements, but they're less so than the center screen. I do like the steering wheel design, how it's kind of boxy with the overall setup. That's pretty cool. But this is going to be more basic with the features. So like just a backup camera, for example. But you do get dual zone climate. You do get heated seats. You still have your drive mode select. And then you also have crawl control with this. You don't get multi-terrain select with this version. You do get a center and a rear locking differential. No stabilizer bar disconnect. And then you've got the four-wheel drive system. It's a Torsen system for those of you that are wondering. And yeah, you got this little like charging area up front too. There you go. And then center console, pretty cool. I do like this trim here on the top, that's nice. And then no center for anything like that. So when it comes to value, these used Land Cruisers, believe it or not, retail for over original MSRP. Now, are they actually going to sell for that? I don't know. We'll just see what the market ends up doing. But that's the current retail prices on these, which is crazy. But it seems like no matter what happens with Toyota, Toyota people are always willing to pay big money for them. Let's drive it. Okay, well, we are going to set off in this Land Cruiser, which, this is just my personal opinion. I think they should just call this the FJ Cruiser. Now, obviously, marketing says that, modern marketing with car manufacturers says that they have to call cars the highest possible thing that they can. So, of course, I'm going to use the Land Cruiser name, but even though this doesn't have the funky door setup of the FJ Cruiser that left the US market back in, what, 2014? It's still a boxy Toyota SUV, and I don't know, I think that would have made more sense, especially considering the price point, considering what the 200 series Land Cruiser was and what this is. I think it just would have made a bit more sense. Anyways, apparently I don't know how to back up out of a parking lot. It's my first review of the day, so my brain's just starting to click on a little bit. I wanted to do a review on this to, kind of talk about the resale value, and because there's finally some of these on the used market, and kind of talk about what this might mean for Toyota's future, right? So what I'll say right off the bat is this thing is a torque monster. It's really impressive how much torque this actually has, and on top of that, it's really comfortable. Seats are comfortable, suspension's comfortable. Yeah, it's got tons of torque. It's crazy. For a 4-cylinder, it's really impressive. And again, the hybrid is what's helping out with that a massive amount, because what you basically have is you've got the hybrid assist, and that's what this engine's all about, is power. You got the hybrid assist punching right away, and then once that kind of dies off, then you're into the torque of the turbocharged 4-cylinder. So it all comes together. It's really impressive. And I've driven this back to back with the Lexus GX. I've looked up the 0 to 60 times, and apparently the GX is quicker, but when you drive them back to back, they don't, like, the GX doesn't really feel any more powerful. And I think a big part of that is just torque is so important with vehicles. And so although the GX has more torque and has a larger displacement, more cylinder engine set up, greater amount of cylinders, that'd probably be a better way to say that, the torque figures are so similar. And because this has so much torque come on at 0 RPMs, right, it helps out quite a bit. Now there is quite a bit of noise here at the top. I noticed that with the Lexus GX too, and this one doesn't have the roof rack. I've been told by owners that the roof rack adds to the noise, so that is something to consider. This arm placement's weird. This is too high and that is too low. Center console's in the right place. It's the door that's off. It's not bad, it's just weird. Yeah, and the gear shifts are smooth too. It's nice. It does seem like it goes into EV mode every so often. It's pretty cool. And the handling's really good. It's kind of more car-like. So yeah, getting up onto the interstate, it does kind of feel more like a 4-cylinder. That's where you would like the Lexus GX more in terms of how that accelerates. That's gonna continue to have more pull, whereas this, it feels like it doesn't have quite as much. It's actually not too bad with the wind noise. Oddly enough, I don't know how this is possible because they're basically the same car. I think this might have less wind noise than the Lexus on the highway. Weird! Isn't that weird? You wouldn't think that would be the case. It's still there. It still exists. Huh. would have never thought that. That's interesting. Braking's not weird, by the way. You get a little turbo blow off. That's interesting. You can hear it go whoosh. That's kind of fun. So overall, the new Land Cruiser it's a cool SUV. It is a cool SUV. Is it going to continue to hold its value? I don't know. My thoughts personally is Toyota has so many vehicles at this price point now, and I think the $70,000 price point is really the one to talk about, because you can get a loaded up Land Cruiser or a GX Overtrail or the new 4Runner TRD Pro. Now, they haven't released pricing on the 4Runner TRD Pro, but if the Tacoma's 66 grand, the 4Runner is always more expensive than a Tacoma. The 4Runner is going to be 70 grand for a TRD Pro. So I don't know which one, because like, I don't think that the market's going to say, yep, all of them are desirable. We want all, like, they're all cool vehicles, but I think ultimately the market's going to say, this is the one we like the most. Is it going to be Land Cruiser? Is it going to be Tacoma, or not Tacoma, sorry, 4Runner, or is it going to be Lexus GX? My intuition says that it's between Land Cruiser and 4Runner, and I think the 4Runner might end up winning out just simply based on volume, because TRD Pro volume is always low. And so, just because there will be fewer on the market available, I think that'll make it win out. It's such a weird feeling. The steering's very light, but it takes the body a second to come around with the steering. It's kind of wonky. It's kind of wonky. But I mean, overall, this drives really well. Like, it's got comfortable suspension and all of that. Like, it's a nice rig. It kind of gives me G-Wagon type vibes in a way, like the boxiness, but also just how this drives, how it kind of goes. It kind of reminds me a little bit. It doesn't have the same heavy planted feel. It's a much lighter vehicle, but I don't know, it has a lot of similarities to it, more than you'd think. So let me know what you guys think about the new Land Cruiser. Let me know what you guys think about the future of Toyota resale value. Do you think Toyotas are still going to have good resale value in the future, or do you think that this is just the calm before the storm when people flee Toyota because they don't want to deal with the turbocharged engines and all of that? So that's all.